Okay, this week topic is interest. So we'll be talking about when you are saving money or if you're taking out a loan, how the person that lent you that money or when you're lending somebody money, how you make more money on that. So starting off with some vocab here. So what is interest? Well, it's money that is made or earned for money that is borrowed. So anytime that you either borrow money, so if you take out a loan to buy a house, buy a car, or just a loan to pay off some debt or something like that, the person that you're borrowing from or the bank that you're borrowing from is going to make a certain percentage of money on whatever you borrowed. But it also works the other way as well. So notice that it's also money earned here as well. So savings accounts, when you deposit money into a bank and have a savings account, they're going to actually pay you a little bit of interest every year, typically, on the amount of money that you have in the bank. And so you're actually letting the bank borrow your money when you're putting it in there as a savings account. And then the bank will, in the meantime, while you're not using your money and it's just in there, they will be using your money to lend out to other people and so that they can have loans on things. But that's kind of how the bank system works. So the next word is for principal, and we use capital P to represent principal, and that's the initial amount of money that is either borrowed or deposited. So either the amount of the loan or the amount of money that you deposit into the bank initially, we call that the principal. The rate, or lowercase r, is the interest rate, which is a percentage that determines the amount of interest that will be added over time. So in this, you'll see that in our examples, the rate is given as a percentage, and we will need to be needing to convert that percentage over to a decimal to use it for our calculations. Time, lowercase t, often interest rates are calculated in terms of years, and typically anytime you encounter an interest rate from a bank or for a loan, they're always displaying it in annual percentage rate, or which is APR, but it's usually over years that they're showing it. But it's possible that it could be calculated in terms of months as well, so you do need to pay attention to whether it's being shown in years or months. If it's not specified, typically the assumption is that it's years, that it's the interest rate is being calculated over. Okay, and then this set of notes is focusing on what's called simple interest. And so simple interest is money that is earned or paid on only the principal amount. So the amount of money that you initially deposit, the interest rate is only being determined off of that. Or so the amount of interest that you're getting is only being determined off of the principal. So as you make more money over time, or as you start to pay off your loan, or if you increase the amount that you're borrowing, like in situations like credit cards, principal would be only, simple interest would be only off of that initial amount that you borrowed, or the amount that you continue to borrow. And then we'll talk about compound interest later in the week and how that differs. So to calculate the amount of simple interest that is accrued on a principal amount over a given time, we're going to multiply the principal amount by the decimal equivalent of the rate and the amount of time that the interest rate has been accumulating. So in terms of a formula, it looks like I, which is the overall amount of interest, is equal to the principal amount times the rate times time. So remember, this has to be a decimal. So if it's given to us as a percentage, we have to make that conversion. Remember, that means moving the decimal point 2 places to the left to go from a percentage to a decimal. And then the time, again, unless specified otherwise, we're going to want that to be in years. So if it's given to us in months, like we'll see in some of our examples, we'll need to convert that over to a number of years first before we go to make our calculation. So in our first examples, find the amount of interest earned in the following simple interest scenarios. So $600 at 5% for 2 years. Now it doesn't specify whether this is like a savings account or whether you're borrowing this money and you'll have to pay this amount more. But we're just trying to find the amount of interest here. And so my $600 is my principal. That's how much we're either depositing or we're borrowing at first. 5% is the rate, but again, remember we're going to have to convert that over to a decimal. And 2 years is the time, and it's already given in years, so we can leave it just as 2 here. So it's going to be I is equal to 600 for the P, principal, times the rate, which is 5%, but as a decimal, remember moving it 2 places over to the left is going to be actually 0.05, or just 0.05, and then times 2 for the number of years. So now I can take my calculator, and I can multiply those, so 600 times 0.05 times 2, and we come up with $60. So what that means is if this was a savings account situation, then after 2 years, if you were earning 5% interest per year on your $600 investment, that now in the bank, instead of having just $600, you would have another $60 on top of that, so you'd have a total of $660. Okay. For number 2, we have $1,800 that was deposited or borrowed. That's the principal amount. At 6.5%, that's the rate, over 30 months, which is time, but we do want to convert that to a number of years here. We could calculate a number of months and then just understand that what we're looking at is would be a per month, but typically 6.5% is not something that you're going to see per month. That'd be an extremely high interest rate. So 6.5% would definitely be more of a year situation. But if to make that conversion, right, so if I want to go from months to years, what I need to do then is divide by 12, because there's 12 months in a year. So if I take 30 divided by 12, what I end up getting here is 2.5 years. So that's 2.5 years is what 30 months would be. Okay, so my interest is equal to 1,800 times my interest rate, which is 6.5%, or 0.065 as a decimal, and then times my 2.5 for a number of years. Multiply that, and you get $292.50. So again, if it's a savings account situation, then you're gonna have $292.50 more in your account than when you did 2.5 years prior when you deposited the money. If it's a borrowing situation and you're borrowing money, that means in the 2.5 years that it took you to pay back, or that you're going to pay off the $1,800 that you borrowed, you're going to pay the person an additional $292.50 for having borrowed the money, or the bank, or whoever the borrowing institution is. Okay, in these next examples, so find the interest amount and then the total account balance. Okay, so what that means is now we're going to take that interest amount that we're finding and we're going to be adding it to the original principal amount to find out what the total account balance is then. So after that given amount of time. So $350, again, is my principal at 3%, which is the rate, for 5 years, and that's my time. And it's already given in years, so I can leave it as 5. So interest is equal to 350 times my percentage of 3%, but that's 0.03 as a decimal, times 5. 350 times 0.03 times 5, and we get an interest amount of 52.5. Okay, but now the total account balance, to find that, I have to add my 52.5, so we can do T for total if we wanted to. So it would be my interest amount of 52.5 plus my principal that I started with, which is 350. And if I add 350 to that, 402.50. Is the total account balance. So again, two ways that it could be happening. You either now, you started with $350 that you deposited, and after 5 years, now you have $402.50 in the bank, or you borrowed $350, and after 5 years that you paid it back, you now have paid a total of $402.50 for having borrowed that $350. Okay, number 4. $5,200 borrowed or deposited, that's the principal amount, 7.5% is the rate, and then 54 months is the time. But if we wanted to convert that, 54 months over to a number of years, divided by 12, which is 4.5 years. Okay, and so interest is equal to 5,200 times 0.075 times 4.5. Okay, giving us a total amount of interest of $1,755. And now for the total account balance, add that to the principal amount that we started with. And we get $6,955 total now. Okay, so just pay attention to whether the question is asking for the interest amount, or if it's asking for the total account balance, or the total amount that you would have, or total amount that you would pay at the end, in which case we then need to add that back to the principal. All right, but we can make other calculations with the simple interest formula. So in these scenarios, we're going to know the interest, we're going to know the principal, we're going to know the amount of time. What we're going to be finding is the interest rate. So this means that R is our unknown this time. So this is examples where we want to know what the rate is. So we're trying to find R. So as we can see, this one just already has labeled what we know. So if, again, my simple interest formula is I is equal to P times R times T, in this case I know I, that's $24, is equal to P, which is 400, times my rate I don't know, so that's still just R, times my time, which is 2 years. Okay, so now to be able to solve this, what I can do is I can first simplify, because I'm multiplying all these together. I can multiply the 400 times the 2, so I can get 24 equals 400 times 2 is 800, and then R. And now what I have is just a little one-step equation where I can divide both sides by 800. And let's see what we find when we take 24 divided by 800. Looks like 0.03 is what R is going to be equal to, which means if I convert that to a percentage as an interest rate, that would be 3%. So this time going back from decimal to percentage, remember move it 2 places to the right now. So 3% would be my interest rate there. Okay, number 6, $54 earned on an initial investment of $900 after 18 months. So the 54 in this case is the interest that I've earned on an initial investment. Well, initial investments, those are the principals, so that's P. And then my time here, 18 months, but again, I want to convert that over to a percentage, or sorry, to a number of years. So I'm going to take 18 divide by 12. Should be 1.5, yeah. Okay, so my time here is 1.5 years. So again, if I start with the formula of interest is equal to principal times rate times time. This time I know $54 is my interest. My principal amount was $900 times the rate, which I don't know, and then 18 months, but I'm going to use 1.5 for the number of years. Okay, again, multiply the two numbers on the right side, the 900 and the 1.5, to turn that into a simplified single coefficient. And that would be 1,350 here. And now solve for r, so divide both sides by 1350. 0.04, which, converting that over to a percentage, that shows that my rate here is 4%. Okay, two more examples. In these examples, find the amount of time that it would take to earn the given amount of interest. So in these examples, now these are where we're missing time. So time is our unknown here. So $30 of interest gained, so that's my amount of interest, on a principal amount of $500, so initial investment of $500, so that's my principal P, and at a rate of 3%. So this time I know R. Just remember we need to convert that over to a decimal to use it on our calculation. Okay, so plugging in what I know my interest rate is $30, principal amount 500 times the rate I know this time, 3%, that's 0.03. What I don't know is the amount of time that it took me to earn that $30. So T is my unknown, so just leave it as T here. Okay, this time again simplify by multiplying the 500 times 0.03. Gives us 15. T, again divide both sides by 15, and 30 divided by 15 is 2. So we get that T equals 2, which means, again, remember when we get our answers here, unless otherwise specified, well, it is specified here as years, so 2 years. Okay, number 8. How long would it take to make $450? So we want to make $450, so that would be our initial investment, or sorry, our interest rate, our interest amount on an initial investment of $2,400. That's our principal, with an interest rate of 7.5% per month. Okay, so it's being specified here that this is going to be per month here, and so that's our rate. That's a really, really high interest rate if you were getting 7.5% per month. Or if you were taking out a loan and they told you were going to be paying 7.5% per month, that's a really, really high interest rate loan. Now 7.5% per year, not so bad, but per month, that's going to really add the money up quickly, which would be great if you're earning that amount, but not so good if you're taking out a loan. But again, we'll just calculate what it is for the problem here. So 450 is my interest. Principal amount $2,400. The rate is 0.075, and time again is what we don't know. So if I multiply 2,400 times 0.075, this is 180 then T. Divide both sides by 180. And that's 2.5 as for T. And since that interest rate we were told was per month, that means it would just take 2.5 months. So in 2.5 months, after investing $2,400, you would now gain $450 more dollars. So you'd be up to $2,850 total. Again, that would be extremely fast growth of your money, which would be great for you, but unless that was a borrowing situation, that would be really bad to have to pay that back. But yeah, like if you use check cashing places, it's not unlikely that you might run into a scenario like that. So just be careful if you're borrowing money, to be paying attention to the interest rates. Okay, now there would be one other situation that we could talk about. We could talk about knowing what the principal amount is, or having the principal amount be the unknown. It'd be a similar type of calculation. I didn't include any here in the examples, but you might encounter some of those in the worksheet. But same idea, you would be plugging in the interest that you knew you earned, the rate and the time, and then the P would be the unknown. So multiply the rate times the time first, and then divide that to the other side to find out what the principal amount was. All right, there's a worksheet to complete on this. Good luck with that. And tomorrow, compound interest.